Ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. So today we're going to be talking about something very, very different. This question came to my mind, rather in my mind, while I was just introspecting about life. Like, what are we really fighting for? So I'm going to watch this video that will set the trail for what we're going to be talking about today. So please be open-minded and let's enjoy together and let's learn together.
You there, second desk, blue jacket. What is your name?
My name is Alexis.
Alexis, please leave my lecture room. I don't want to see you at one of my lectures ever again.
I don't understand.
I am not going to ask a second time. Thank you. Why are there laws? What are laws for? Anyone?
Social order?
To protect the person's personal rights.
So that you can rely on the government?
Justice? Thank you. Tell me, was I unfair to your classmate just now? Indeed I was. So, why didn't any of you protest? Why didn't any of you try and stop me? Why didn't you want to prevent this injustice? You see, what you have just learnt, you wouldn't have understood in 1,000 hours of lectures unless you lived it. You didn't say anything because you weren't affected yourself. And this attitude speaks against you and against life. You think it doesn't concern you, so it's none of your business. Well, I'm here to say, if you don't help bring about justice, then one day you too may experience injustice. And there will be nobody there to stand before you.
That's a very interesting one, right? Let us now keep that in mind because I want to come back to what that video was trying to explain to us later in the video, right? So came across this piece with the topic, what are we fighting for? So I'm going to read it out. Serving in the army, you hear quite a few motivational speeches. Some are more memorable than others. One which particularly stands out in my memories of being a young infantryman during wartime was the speech our battalion commander gave as we left our staging area in Kuwait for our duty station in Baghdad. Unlike most of Iraq, Kuwait is a true desert. And so the horizon was unbroken, and the heavy sun leaned on us. Felt like the heat held everything to the ground, a replacement for gravity, and the cloudless sky was completely still. It was an appropriately charged backdrop for such a dramatic moment. The Bedouin that we had seen stalking us during our range time off base, just waiting until we finished target practice and shuffled into our buses to leave so that we could collect our spent brass to sell, still sat proudly upright on the camel somewhere in the periphery of my consciousness. The moment felt like it had slipped outside of time. The motionless suggested eternity. I don't remember many of the details of the speech, only that the 300 were alluded to. It did not require more than an allusion, since everyone in the infantry was expected to at least have a passing notion of who the 300 Spartans under Leonidas were, if you know, ladies and gentlemen, and how they held off a massively oversized Persian army until the last Lacedaemonians were killed to a man. The battle was a technical win for the Persians, but the bravery of the 300 was so profoundly heroic that their tenacity outlived them. Our battalion commander hoped that we would have a similar toughness. From somewhere behind me, I heard a whisper. Wait, didn't they all die? The confused soldier must have gotten a nod or some affirmation because then the same voice said, "Uh-oh, well, that's not very inspiring." He just did not get it. The battalion commander wasn't suggesting that we should expect to die meaningless deaths. He was trying to tell us that we should live for something bigger than our own mere survival. To observe that war is crucial to civilizational advancement is also to observe the following: that human beings have a larger purpose than simply living out their 3 square and 10. And really, this is why men fight and die. Whatever practical fruits war brings us, be it advancements in transportation or medicine, These things nevertheless exist simply as counterpoint to the horrendous loss and suffering of combat itself, but only something far outside the dialectic of material progress can account for the willingness of men to sacrifice themselves, or for parents to sacrifice their children. We suffer violence and squalor, a different, much more sterile way of saying this is to say that we in the West willingly die for the common good. There's an interesting paradox at the heart of this dynamic. A culture based on the primacy of the individual serves the common good better via the mechanism of willing self-sacrifice than the regimented, collectivist societies of the East. Western soldiers do not have to be prodded into battle by political commissars. They do not have to be conscripted on a vast and permanent scale. They need not be propagandized to come to the defense of the homeland. The individual, while exalted politically, is dispensable militarily for the good of all the other individuals. There might be a bit of oversimplification at play here, but Walsh's basic premise nevertheless rings true, and in a strange way, his conceit acts as a kind of odd counterpart to the sort of argument Patrick Deneen put forth in Why Liberalism Failed, that through its very success, liberalism has denuded us the resources through which culture is maintained. Consumers don't live for anything beyond the next dopamine hit of acquisition, and they certainly don't sacrifice themselves for something bigger. Because what could be bigger than yourself? Only free citizens are able to serve themselves and others simultaneously, and only free citizens who prize the intangible substructure of culture, which is honor, loyalty, prudence, greed, over fleeting and cheap desire, are willing to sacrifice themselves for the common good. My primary intent here, writes Walsh, is to reflect upon how our Western notions of heroism, duty, honor, country, in the face of overwhelming odds, evolved and why they still matter to the survival of our civilization. Well, they matter to the survival of civilization because they are civilization. Walt is aware that his saying isn't popular and might easily be interpreted as reactionary or retrograde, but he's comfortable with that. How retrograde, how antique to our modern ears this all sounds. It basically means that we the people, or rather some people, a certain number of people whose narrative is controlled by the dopamine, which is social media, news outlets, all this kind of stuff, all these outside noises, are a slave to their own freedom because they cannot think for themselves, as their mind, or rather as his mind, has been warped to fit into a narrative that lacks intentionality. And so by being free, echoing what Plato's allegory of the cave brings to light when it comes to narrative control. In the cave, prisoners are not chained by force alone. They are chained by habit, familiarity, stimulation, or rather shadows, and social reinforcement. They mistake shadows for reality because they have never trained their attention otherwise. Aristotle further echoes this profoundly by basically asking, what are we humans really made for? Really, what are you really made for? Every action, he says, has a telos, which is an end or purpose. And do we, the modern world, really carry this notion? It means that we have to be educated in the matters of such, which is around us, and to form our own narrative which will bring this sense of peace, enlightenment, to know what we exactly are fighting for. Because when we know and are assured of the identity that we have and we bear, we can fight the true fight. Hopefully you guys are on the same page with me here. I also found another interesting article with the topic war. What are we really fighting for? Let us read it aloud because it speaks very profoundly of the world that is today, right? Or has always been to some regard, but it relates to me because I am, of this generation. When we talk of war, we often talk about it like it's a movie, like it's a 2-hour story with clear heroes and villains, a catchy soundtrack, and a patriotic ending that makes it all seem worth it. But let's be realistic here. War isn't a movie. It's not romantic and it's not clean. It's messy, ugly, and devastating right down to the bones. We all can agree that that is a fact. A full-fledged war doesn't just mean fighting at the borders. It means a nation's economy is dragged backwards by a decade. The rupee weakens, recession hits, prices rise, businesses crumble, your dreams, your plans, your stability, everything gets pushed to the edge. It affects your daily life in ways you won't even realize until it's already too late. Again, another very interesting fact. This fighter is hitting the points home. For example, wars in the Ukraine, wars in Israel, Palestine, wars in South Sudan, wars in Sudan, the war in Congo, West Africa, all that kind of stuff are happening, and such has been happening, as the writer is saying. And while all this happens, the media has a field day. which is again true. It spreads hate and panic like wildfire. Instead of calming people down, it fuels division instead of giving us facts. It gives us fear, and we fall for it. We post, we share, we rage, we take sides from the comfort of our phones, turning a tragedy into a rivalry match. It's on the families of the dead soldiers or the civilians bombed out of their homes. War benefits the powerful, the people who sit at top and pull strings, the people who will never see a bullet, never lose a child, never skip a meal. The rest of us, we just suffer. We lose money, peace of mind, jobs, and sometimes even people we love. Again, just look at the things that are happening here in Africa, man, and you get to see, you know what? Hey, man, this world is deep, man, and our African leaders, yo, Wagwan, you can do something about it. But anyway, that is for later in the video. And then there's the civilian toll, something that is ignored too often. When there's constant attack from one side, protecting civilians becomes an urgent priority for the other. That makes sense, right? But what gets lost in that conversation is this: the protection of some lives often comes at the cost of others. In this case, this person is now relating to what the situation that happened between Pakistan and India. So saying that, in this case, Pakistani civilians, people who are just trying to live, pay with their lives for the decisions made by governments and armies. And once again, it's the innocent who have nothing to do with it who suffer and bleed. The writer goes on to say, I'm on in their side. Always, this is my home, my land, which again, you have the right to support where you come from, right? But he also goes to say, but being on India's side doesn't mean I have to celebrate violence or stay silent about injustice. I don't support hate. I don't support propaganda. I don't support cheering for war like it's a cricket match. My brother is enlightened. He's educated on matters of such as we talked about earlier. And please, he goes on to say, let's stop pretending that saying I'm not into politics is noble. It's not. It's a privilege not everyone has. You say you're not into politics because it doesn't affect you. But for millions, politics decides whether they eat, sleep, survive, or get displaced. Choosing not to care is a luxury they don't have. Let's now go back to the video that I showed you guys. This part really shines a light onto that video, right? If you dissect that video in a deeper lens, you're going to see that, oh, these people, they don't care. It doesn't suit them, she went out of the class, right? We're gonna look at each other, bro. Does it really bother you? I mean, I don't know, man. Nah, man, she's gone. I'm cool. I'm gonna sit here, But it has affected her, ladies and gentlemen. She will not be able to attend that day's lecture room, or rather, in this sense, she will not be able to eat, to sleep, or to survive in that regard, man. Because, I don't care about politics. And let's go to show that we are very hypocritical, ladies and gentlemen. And I must say, and I must admit that I am very hypocritical, because when it comes to matters of my home, matters of my continent, I do not speak louder about what is going on around as much as I could, because I have the platform, right? I have this YouTube where I could do such, not engage in the politics in that regard, but fight for what is right. You get me? Now, let's talk about hypocrisy, because it's everywhere. A huge lot out there scream about lives lost in war, mourn innocent strangers across borders, and post emotional tributes online, but treat their own friends, partners, and family like garbage. You cry for victims you don't know, but ignore the people around you who are hurting, who've shown you love, who've stood by you. You can't be selective with empathy. You can't be cruel to the people in your life and then claim to care about humanity. If you want to be a decent human being, start small. Check on the people in your life. Be kind to the ones who love you. Help someone who's struggling. Be a safe space, not a source of stress, and then go talk about war and peace and empathy, because how can you care about the world if you don't care about your own circle? That's very deep, man. That's very deep. Again, I'm gonna just use me as an example, man. Even here at home, like here where I'm living now in Kenya, I'm like, yo, I could be doing better, man. Sometimes I say, free this, free that, and then here in my home, in my country, I'm not doing as much. I'm not going out there maybe helping the poor as much as I could be, man. So I have to say, I must admit that this video also is reprimand to me that, yo, brother, you can do better, man. Let's just finish up this. I recently made a video, we are gonna watch it in a minute, where I was talking about how we as a generation, or rather, if you put it in any context you want to, but in this context I was putting it in the African light, like that many of our forefathers fought for something greater, right? Fought for independence. In this journey, you get to see that they are not so different from the colonial masters. How, you ask? If you go back to the first video that I showed you guys, everyone is around the class, right? Let's say that class is your home, right? And then there's this foreign man that has come to teach you. Let's now say that this lecturer is a man who has come to bring you wisdom, so to say, right? And then he tells that the young lady, you get out. But those other remaining people in the classroom, they are learned to say they know what is right and wrong. They could have said something, right? In the same way, in the African land, yes, we have chased out the colonial masters, right? We have freed ourselves from slavery, we have gained independence, but their cause still lives with us. In what sense? With their name, the name that they put into a land. Let's say, for example, Kenya. Kenya should not be called Kenya. It should be called maybe, let's say, for example, Kirinyaga, because Kenya was apparently a white man's mistake when he was trying to ask the name of this land, right? And then they just say, no, let's name it Kenya. Or let's say, for example, South Africa. I don't know why they call it South Africa. They should name it the rightful name of that place, right? That is one of it. Another is when it comes to resources, right? We all know that this is ours. This resource is ours, right? But certain person right there, because they have they're gonna come and say, not, hey, yo, my brother, tell these people, get out. I want it to be ours, but I want to get a bigger chunk for this resource, right? You're gonna take yours. And then, this stupid black man, this African man is gonna say, oh, it's okay, brother. It's okay. Like, make it make sense. You know that it can benefit all of you, but you exclude my brother. Come on, man. I don't know if that is making sense. That is how I interpret it. So let's now watch that video and then we're gonna conclude. History has a funny way of repeating itself. And yet we, the very culprits who partake in its cycles, fail to learn anything from it. Science teaches us that we were once barbaric beings who knew how to grunt, eat meat and survive until the age of 45. Later, this same science proclaims that through a gradual chain of cause and effect, we evolved, becoming smarter, more curious and eventually transforming into who we are today. And from this evolution came politics, culture, religion, science, alchemy, and countless other ideologies that have shaped the very essence of who we are, how we talk, how we dress, what we eat, likes, dislikes, and the customs we cling to. I remember a time when the world felt more fluid, joyful, vibrant, a time when technology was still finding its way into people's home, when we kids played in the streets, talked about the newest Ben 10 episode, and practiced karate moves we learned from the Three Ninjas movie. What a world it was, an innocent world, at least through my eyes. Little did I know that in my later years, I would come to unearth the cruelty mankind has always subjected itself to. This thought struck me the other day almost like an epiphany. I found myself thinking about the gun, a tool originally created for battle, meant to protect territories from external threats. But as years passed, we being the curious creatures we are, weaponized this invention even further. What was meant for defense became a tool for unnecessary extermination. We made ourselves gods, beings who will take our life in the blink of an eye. This essay will be tedious if I spiral into statistics and numbers. The dead need no arithmetic to prove their suffering. What cuts deeper is the realization that slavery has always been woven into the fabric of human history. The world of old practiced it just as our more recent ancestors did, though theirs was and has been documented. Eventually, in our foolishness, we collectively recognized that this was wrong, and so we fought to end it. And it did, but at a cost. A price paid in blood, suffering, and the desperate purchase of one's own freedom. Slowly, painfully, the stench of slavery began to fade, or so we thought. Words alone could not seal our fate, so we turned to paper instead. We signed documents, treaties, agreements, and for the first time, we tasted the fruits of independence. Our cultures, our languages, our ethos remained intact. Years passed and men from our own communities, men like us, rose to power. They heard the cries of their people and worked to rebuild what had been broken. I speak of Africa in particular, though this narrative can fit any land scarred by exploitation. But as these leaders grew in influence, intellect, and wealth, something shifted. Greed, the ancient parasite, found fertile in their soils. It bore fruits of malice, hatred, and death toward their own people. They were no longer leaders of the people. They became leaders for themselves. And anyone who tried to oppose them found a dagger raised to silence their dissent. The haven we fought for decayed into a wasteland, serving only the few. Oh, power! What a wonderful thing! at least to those intoxicated by it. Some even went far as selling their own nations back to the very oppressors they once fought. And when I say sell, I mean they handed over the very resources meant to uplift their communities. Instead of development, there was nothing but parasitic consumption, draining the sweet juice God blessed the land with. How pitiful is it that man is blinded by things he will eventually leave behind? Africa, Africa, what a waste of potential we have become. The cries of the people echo loudly. Why can't we do what Singapore has done? Why are we still divided by names, tribes, and petty disputes when we bleed the same blood and share the same painful history? Why can't we build wealth that benefits everyone, drinking from the same pot of honey instead of fighting over crumbs? I have many whys, but I know those fat-headed officials won't listen. They marinate their words in false promises, all in the name of reform. Yet the only reform they know is the lump sum compensation they pocket to keep quiet, growing richer by the day. If this is what it means to be an independent nation, then we have truly, utterly lost the plot. We call ourselves brothers, yet we can't even agree on a common vision for survival. Truly, we are our own damnation. What do you guys think, ladies and gentlemen? Please do tell me in the comments. And with that said, I'll see you guys in a bit. Peace.